I like that name. All right, so we're early. I just want to give people time to come in, but I mean, I guess we can get started.
I think the whole conversation is going to be awesome, Keisha. So as people come in, they'll just get that value when they come in.
It's like living the dream. I agree. All right, so without further ado, even though it's just you and I at this very moment, before I even get into introductions or anything like that, I don't think I put anything in here that's super sensitive, but I do want to acknowledge that this is a sensitive topic, and I want to respect the people out there who may be dealing with any of these issues that come up. And just to know, this is why I personally had a professional come in, because I only know as much as I know. I have some background in it, but I'm not the professional here. And if you're not following Leah on her page, I mean, she is literally giving you day-to-day things that you can do to help you through your mental health process and whatever it is you're trying to heal and get through. She's amazing. She's amazing. So she's the professional here. So excuse my ignorance. I really need to say that with an open heart. But I still think that this is an important topic. And I hope at any chance, whatever I say, the message comes through clear of, some of the things that could come up at this time. So did you have anything you wanted to add to that, Lovely?
Well, I want to say that, remember, you're a professional in your area of expertise, because I know not much about astrology, and
Right.
You can read a birth chart like no other, and those things are complicated. They look like a mandala art project to me. So I just want to remind you, I'm a professional in this area because that's where life led me. That was my purpose when I came here. And you're a professional in your area, and that's where your life led you. So I think it's going to be a wonderful conversation. And I'm glad you said that, because we are talking mental health. There are, I'm probably going to talk about trauma. That's my specialty. So if anything does come up, yeah, you can just excuse yourself. You can send me a DM after the fact and get some clarification on anything that came up for you. And so I'm ready to do this.
Awesome. Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Keisha. I'm the owner of A Way of Lyfe. I am a career and business coach using astrology. So you hear career and business, and already I'm betting you're probably thinking, what does that have to do with mental health? Well, quite a lot these days. And I'll get into my explanation. Astrology is very vast. It's one of those things that's really hard to hone in on one subject. Actually, I was going back and forth for like, there's so much here. I had like a whole 4 pages, believe me, I promise you. I got it down to 1 page. I say all that to say I tried to build some storylines around it of things that you can relate to, that's happening right now in this time. So again, bear with me. I promise you, I am not a professional when it comes to mental health. I know of them. I work in the fields as a career coach now. It's actually my actual day job. And we do service men and women with disabilities. And I see a lot here, and so this topic is very passionate and near and dear to my heart. I have sisters who are teachers, and they specialize in working with children with disabilities. So I'm hearing their stories and everything that's going on with this time. I think it's a very important topic for this time. So before I jump in, I want to give Miss Leah the opportunity to say a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do.
Thank you, Keisha. So I'm Leah Abraham, and I'm a childhood trauma expert. And basically what I do is I like to work with people and give them new perspective around their traumas and their addictions using self-love and alignment. So that's kind of what I offer. I have a 5-step healing process, and the 5 steps are: number 1, alignment, knowing what it feels like for you; number 2, building the foundation of self-love; number 3, is releasing your denial around your childhood trauma and accepting it for what it is. And number 4 is seeing your addictions clearly. And number 5 are the tools that we gather along our way on our healing journey that we'll continue to use throughout our life. So that's a little bit about what I do. And just to say again, you know, I think we all have a little bit of expertise in mental health because we deal with our own, you know what I mean? We deal with our own generational traumas. We deal with our own trauma, you know? So, so I think we all have a grasp around it as far as like us personally. So hopefully we can combine the two and give you guys some really good information today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for everybody who joined. It looks like Gossip Gals Network, and I love that name. I'm sorry. That's awesome. Thank you for joining. So, as we all know, 2020 was the year that pretty much kind of set the stage for what I'm going to be talking about, because it has to do with the pandemic and has caused a lot of changes that can definitely lead to a lot of mental health issues. Astrologically speaking, 2020 was crowned the year of Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn. And Saturn rules governmental structures and systems, hierarchy, status, authority figures, power, and control. It's the winter time. Capricorn is the winter season. So it's usually often related to like the hibernation of things. So isolation, being in darkness, so some kind of depression, being cold, like a narcissistic behavior. These are all themes that come with the sign of Capricorn. Not to mention, we've had, you know, all these other things that kind of fell down. The domino effect is what I like to call it, of a lot of the issues that the governmental structures coming down had kind of caused. So we kind of went from being able to get away from home every now and again, to get a break and get out and get away, to that coming all into one small structure, which is your home, which is usually, I don't know about anybody else, but for me, quite frankly, my home was always my safe space. You know, that's where I get to come and unwind and be me, you know, unapologetically, you know, and just feel free to do that. But last year, with everything that happened and ongoing, we're now having to bring all of that into one cycle, causing depression and isolation, and just having to deal with that. You know, the disruption, I feel like, in the home, like to whatever that was for you, is now changed pretty drastically. I think the longevity of that process, because it's been a year now, right?
Yeah, in March, it'll be a year.
Wow. Yeah, the longevity of that, not knowing if people are getting the help that they need, people who are already in, like, I know a few people right now who have children with developmental disabilities, and they usually have the option to go and bring them to a day program. And they don't have that release anymore. So it's like an onset of, you know, bringing longevity into the possibilities of things that can just really grow right now because of the situation that we're in. Before I jump into that and dive a little bit deeper into that, just want to say that Pluto is one of our darker planets that has been in Capricorn for a pretty long time. It's a generational planet. So this is something that's just a longer period of time. It has been in Capricorn since 2008 and will be there until 2024. So I say that to say, with those two planets, these are probably the toughest two planets and the entire astrology to deal with. Like this, it just comes with issues. Pluto rules like the cycles and patterns that we have struggles with, and how to come out of those things. So that insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different response. I know, right? kind of those repetitive behaviors and things that we've learned from childhood. I know I don't have to say that to you, and how you get out of that. I just feel like the possibility for that to grow on a long-term basis is going. It's just it has enhanced because of the situation that we're in right now. So I digress. I hope that what I'm saying is making sense. So I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to Leah. Did you have any thoughts about that? Anything else to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned, that home should be like your sacred space where you feel comfortable, you're surrounded by things you love and enjoy, people you love and enjoy. You can be yourself there. And that's one of the things that I teach, that when we're in alignment, we're in our spiritual home. That's our spiritual home. That's where our life is going to work. That's where joy is going to come in. That's where if there's pain, we're going to learn from it and we're going to vibrate at a higher level once we go through it, rather than when we're out of alignment, if there's pain, it just turns into more pain. So I love that you said that, we're kind of being forced to be put into our home. So I think this time is really offering people that chance to look at their home physically, spiritually, the spiritual home as well, and really take a look and see, like, if they're not happy there, why? Like, what's the deal? What needs to change? And then, you talk about the insanity that we just do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. I actually am so excited for this time that we're in with what's going on, because everything is like flipped, turned upside down, and everybody's on the same level, like we're all dealing with this pandemic. We're all dealing with these changes. We're all having to work from home, be put into this home with our families all day long, like learn how to juggle your children's school. And, so I just feel like it's like we're all with this blank slate. And we're allowed, we're kind of like recognizing the power that we have to create this space in the way that we choose. So it is, definitely a difficult time, but I think it comes also with so much opportunity. So it all depends on your perspective and how you're looking at things. And that's real important, I feel. And because it's the age of Aquarius, right? So where we're turning from looking for things outside to more coming within, right? So that's kind of what I wanted to say about that.
No, that was beautiful. And it leads me right into my next topic, because now I'm just going to start breaking down the different things that could come from this time. So when you have a lot of these generational planets that are in long-term things, and now, like Leah said, we're now moving into a new year, even though it's only been a year, a new year, so new energy, the age of Aquarius in this time. The thing with most of these smaller planets interacting with these long-term issues can look a lot like, so Virgo kind of rules the sixth house. This is your co-workers, your health and daily routines, and believe it or not, pets. But the reason that I bring up Virgo is because Virgo is a very analytical sign. So some of the mental health issues that come with Virgo is being OCD. Virgo is the type of people who really enjoy decompartmentalizing their life, right? So if you don't have a strong Virgo, you can already begin to see how bringing everything in this disruption in your home can kind of disturb your peace in a kind of way. Bringing in, how do you deal with that? What are going to be some tools to really deal with that? And OCD people are not that good with that, and it could lead to other issues, right? So learning how to decompartmentalize, especially we're moving into a lot of air energy. Age of Aquarius is an air sign. It's ruled by air. We have a lot more air placements coming this year, and it's all new. These are placements and transits that we're going to have from now for the next 2,000 years that we have never had before. So it's just interesting. But air signs rules the mental, right? Mercury, it's ruled by the planet Mercury. So this is another reason why I thought mental health was such a good topic to have. And something that you keep bringing up is the spiritual piece to it. And even like maybe possibly having a deeper understanding of spirituality and mental health, or how to use spirituality and mental health in the same thing. So I was mentioning a lot that Capricorn rules governmental structures and systems. Now, I'm going to try to be respectful with my words, so bear with me as I get through this message.
Are we going political here?
Just a little. 2 seconds. I won't spend much time here. But it's very important to what you're saying. Like, this is a time to change. My gosh. I mean, not are we only experiencing this opportunity to change with all the changes in our home, but the workspace. Do we lack spirituality, spiritual practices, and openness to mental health in the workplace in a way that allows us to grow? I bet some would say no. I'm not going to speak about mine. I'm just going to say we could do better, right? So this is a time to learn, and I promise you some of the experiences as a career coach that I'm having right now in the nonprofit, which is the sector that rules dealing with a lot of this population, is heavily disrupted by lack of well-structured systems in place to really help people. And it's really sad to watch. It's hard to ignore the truth now. I mean, I go to a page and look at a mission, and just to see, I mean, as a part of what I do for a career coach is making sure that my clients they are aligning with the jobs or careers that they're getting. That involves looking at a mission statement and saying, hey, look, read through this and make sure that this aligns with your purpose, especially if this is somewhere you're going to spend 8 hours of your day. And I got to tell you, Leah, I don't know if you have any experience or stories to share on this, but it's not aligning. You know, we're not doing well with this transition as far as like making sure that people are staying safe and healthy. And I mean, like, where's the spiritual component? It's really, really hard to ignore. And I feel like the mental health population, the people who can't really fend for themselves, they're struggling the most with this. And the people who are at top and in these structures are really having a hard time seeing a different way. This is mental health all within itself. It's chaos. It's absolute, complete chaos. I've never seen anything like this before in my entire life. I've never felt so dissatisfied in my career in my entire life. And that's a mental health issue, you know, and it's really, you know, I can talk about this all day. I'm going to bring it down a notch. And I'm just going to say, we can seriously use some revamping. It's just unfortunate that we got a lot of work to do before we get to a place where we can meet in the middle. And again, just going back to my point that with these types of issues and the clash of not being so open to change and still kind of wanting to do things the same way, people who have been in these situations are really still struggling because of that. How do you decompartmentalize? You know, how do you deal with the change? Just being okay with that, finding a bottom line and accepting at some level that this is uncomfortable and being okay with that, right? I don't think anybody's maliciously, not changing on purpose. Like, that's the process of this repetitive cycle that we've been caught in a really long time. We just don't talk about it, or it's not mainstream. But now, like you said, it's right here in our face and we really can't ignore it now. And it's like, so how do you deal with that? What say you, Leah?
So what I want to say first is that the disruption is a good thing. So if you think about like the Wild West before everybody came and cultivated it, there's all the plains, and there's all these buffalo that run through the plains. The plain grass grows so big, then the buffalo come through and they rip it all up, and it's all ripped up. The disruption is there, everything's ripped up. But then what happens is it gives the earth that opportunity to grow stronger, and everything comes back stronger. So anytime there's disruption in anything, like in a relationship, in your job, in the world, I view it as, it's the disruption that's good for us, because it's tilling that earth and it's allowing us to grow something new. Yeah. And so I think what's really important is that we can get caught up looking on everything from the outside, and all this structure and the government and all these different issues that are very real. Don't get me wrong, they're very real, but we can get so caught up in that. And what's important, especially now, is that we come back into ourselves, because that's because only we know what is right for us. Only we know what's right for our soul. And I think what a lot of people are experiencing right now is that they're in positions that aren't in alignment with their purpose, with what they're meant to be doing here. And so there's that big disconnect. And I think they're feeling that. And I also have to note that, I've seen, because I'm part of it as well as you, like this increase in people starting their own businesses online, and, really just kind of like.
Uh-oh. Did I lose you, Leah? Leah, I don't know what's happening.
That we're coming into a time where we really have to get clear on who we are, what our purpose is, and what brings us joy. And we need to look for positions that do that. And if we can't find any out there, then we create one. And I really think that that's the time that we're in. Like, if all the jobs out there are not aligning with something that you want, create something new. And I think there's a lot of fear around that, because in order to do that, you have to show up as your authentic self, right? And there's a lot of blocks around our authentic self because of trauma, in my opinion. And so I think it's giving us the opportunity to work through that, and to really like hone in on what brings us joy and who we are and what our purpose is. And that's how we're going to need to go forward, I think.
Yeah. No, those are all very important points, and why I love doing what I do. You get to see all those things and break it down in a very certain kind of way. I think people appreciate that astrology brings a different perspective, or rather, it allows you to take away from the blame of what else is going on, and you can say, "Oh, it's just Saturn." It's not really you. It's Saturn.
Right. We're in Mercury in retrograde. That's right.
Exactly. Okay. So a few more themes that come with this. Not getting out enough, moving around enough. These are also changing your sleep patterns. I don't know if you've experienced that with everything coming online and home. Definitely losing my sense of time, if you will, or it's changing, it's not like I got to be up at 9, that 9 to 5 structure. It's definitely changed a little bit, which especially for, again, people who are kind of OCD, or, they're just not quick with change, right? They struggle with, being able to think quick on the fly. Maybe, these things could come up, so having to have some tools in place, like I practice. So like I did my live. Don't laugh at me, Leah. So every
I'm
time I
laughing with
do
you. I'm always laughing with you.
every time I do my lives, I think of it as if I'm going out to an event, right? To go speak somewhere. So I really make my bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I made my
Like,
bed today too, and I'm not a bed maker. I made my bed.
like I have to remind myself to do these things so that I don't lose track of, just a sense of time and, whatever. It's easy for me to completely ignore what's going on outside, and I find myself doing that a lot. Like people will call me and they'll tell me things that are going on the news and things of this nature. And I'm like, oh, really? I didn't know that happened. I have no clue what's going
I'm
on
the
out
same,
there.
Keisha, but my thoughts on that is that what I need to know is always revealed to me. So
Yeah.
because I don't like watching the news either, and I
Mhm.
kind of stay out of it, but surprisingly I will always be informed of things that are important. So I
Yeah.
just go into it knowing that whatever I need to know will be revealed to me. So
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I get up, I get dressed, I do all those things just to like, keep up with some kind of normalcy. Um, a lot of air energy can also bring a lot of mental stimulation. So like, is it ADD? I know there's two separate ones, but the one that's more on the hyper end.
ADHD. Yeah,
ADHD.
there's ADHD and then there's ADD, but I'm not too familiar with the difference between the two.
I know it's the more hyperactive one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's a lot of air energy. It's the fastest moving energy and out of all the planets, outside from the moon, believe it or not. So like the nervous system, anxiety, bipolar, um, yeah. These are just some of the things that come with this time, with this energy, and a lot of things that can come up at this time. So again, just making sure that we're finding ways to deal with these things and just be honest about them, be aware of them, knowing that they're very real. And yeah.
A lot of people are having to deal with them now. I think it's interesting. I didn't know that they were air, that it's an air sign. And I think that's interesting because air, is not grounded, right? And I think that a lot of these mental issues that people are having are because of the fact that we're not grounding into the present moment. Like, and because a lot of these things come from the mind being outside of itself. And I know I'm not going to get into that whole thing, but if I know you watch my content and so you're familiar with what I'm saying, but so it's interesting that those are air signs. So what we're needing is that grounding to bring ourselves back into the present moment, because that's where our safety is. If we are outside, if we're worried about the past, if we're having anxiety.
Uh-oh. I can't hear you.
Ourselves.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Oh, there we go. I had a call come in, so I had to exit it out. I'm sorry. But yeah, so I think it's really important that we find the grounding methods. And that's really just the best way to do that is to learn how to be in your present moment. And the way that I explain that to my clients is using your five senses, using the five senses of your body, because in the present moment is where we can, smell things, feel things, see things, taste things, hear things. So if you feel that you're out, that you're going, you can sense it, that you're, you know, that you're having an anxiety attack or you're feeling depressed. Like the best way, the quickest way is to bring yourself back into the present moment by using your five senses. So that's interesting that we really need that grounding of earth, you know?
No, it's so crazy that you said that. I'm not even thinking about it. I didn't even add this piece in there, but just hearing you say that. So one of the air planets, one of the air signs that their planets ruled by is in the sign of Taurus. And that's another generational planet. So a lot of the things that I've been talking about as I'm doing my astrology stuff, those usually come from those kind of tips. So Taurus is an earth sign, you know, and I think my favorite word has been stay grounded, because we're about to hit a whole bunch of air energy.
All right.
As somebody who was a double air sign, I can tell you right now, you really need to learn how to manifest some air energy in this time, because it's going to intensify. Things are going to speed up very quickly, very fast with this energy. So really, you gotta find whatever that comfortability is within you to be, like you said, to know your limits, what you can and can't accept, and just be okay with saying, you know what, I think I'm just going to sit here and ponder on this, right? Because that's very Taurian. They're very methodical in their thinking before they make decisions. You know what I mean? And really think things through. This is a great way to use this energy, because air energy is a lot. It's a lot. It's not an easy energy. Another topic for air rules: social media, being online, and it's very social. It's the social sign. This is like a social, the biggest social gala in the entire universe. If you could imagine that. People are going to want to talk and get to know each other and be interactive, however that is, you know, with everything going on. And that has been very interesting as well. I don't know if you can relate to this piece, but the social development piece comes up here for me when I think about children and how much they're watching TV now, and they're not out playing, and they're on these tablets and your phones and all these types of things here. I don't like it.
I don't like it. So what I want to say about that, so going back a little bit to the previous conversation and grounding, you know, like we have to have those roots. And I think a lot of us, our roots, our core belief system are deteriorating, or they are not healthy. And so I think it's so important that we analyze our current core belief system and make sure that it supports us, that those roots are deep and good and healthy and strong. And that goes also to the children, because I think so often, you know, change is always scary because it's a new space, but it's only scary because it's new.
Right.
If we can go into it with this mindset of, what do I want this to be? What do I want this to be? And go into that space from that, you know, without that fear, but instead with that knowledge of, what do I want this to be? And hold that power. I think that's what we need for our children, and in all areas, you know, like I'm using this example because it's come up recently. Like, you know, when we're talking about like sex ed, we always give our kids like these worst case scary scenarios. I think that we need to explain to them the type of sex that we want them to have, you know, because
I like that.
Right. Because, and so same with technology is, we can be like, oh, it's scary, it's awful, there's all these things that could happen. Or we could go into it and with them and go into it and create this space that we want. Like, it can also be very educational. It's also very entertaining. You know, my daughter watches a lot of craft videos, and then she makes all these cool crafts. So it really is just about providing an example to them of what we want this technology to be for them. So it's inevitable, you know, like it's inevitable. Their generation is on that phone all the time. So I think it's really, what's so important is getting those strong roots into our children, that core belief system that's going to support them. Because, you know, if they have a poor core belief system, then they're going to be susceptible to the negativity that comes with online. But if they have a strong support system and they're strong in who they are, they're going to find the things in technology that support them, that help them, that bring them joy. So it's really more about ensuring that our children have that strong core belief system, that deep rootedness, you know, so that they don't fly away like we're talking about, that they stay grounded and they know who they are and they know what they're looking for. You know, I used to be so like stressed out about what are they watching, what shows are you watching, what are you watching on YouTube, and finally I had to like let go of that and tell them, if you're watching something and it doesn't make you feel good, you shouldn't be you know that you shouldn't be watching that. Or you know, like there was one time my daughter was like, she woke up with a nightmare and it was from something she watched. And so instead of, you know, you shouldn't be watching that, I can't believe, we talked about it. And so see how those things make you feel. And you know, if you see something like that again and it doesn't make you feel good, go to a different video, you know. So it's really just about teaching them what we want them to go into that technology space with, those tools, and that deep grounding of who they are, and those strong, healthy roots, that strong, healthy core belief system.
Yeah, no, what you're saying is really touching me in a very soft space right now.
Awesome.
I'm going to tell you, I was listening to some podcast the other day about these two people talking about the disparities in the poor communities that don't have these types of things. And as you could imagine, the disparities that come with that. And one of the guys was telling a very, you know, intimate story about how he was trying to give hope, you know, to tell the kids, you know, you can do this now, and, you know, make this cool. And it just, you know, it really just, it bothered me to think about some of the kids that don't even have access to this, not to mention now everything is shut down and the lack is even bigger than it was before. I think this was out in North Carolina, I think they was talking about between North and South Carolina, the difference of the disparities there because of people are poor and all this and that, and not being able to have jobs. And it just, again, you know, a lot of these things are coming to light that we're no longer able to ignore. You know, the lack that we've already been in, and this belief of what cool is and what we made normal, and how that needs to change on such a drastic level that it just, something that you said was, it made a lot of sense to me, because as a parent, coming up from very poor backgrounds, you know, a lot of the times what it was is that nobody wants to bring mental health into the equation, right? Because that's not cool. That's not what we do. That's not how we run our family.
It's too hard. It's too hard.
I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot, right? And it was a lot for me to change, right? It was a part of what kind of opened my eyes to why change is so important, even though it's not easy, right? And it's broken a lot of family relationships, right? I'm pretty sure people who have been through change and made that step, they know exactly what I'm talking about. It just, what you said just brought up how important, again, I think this topic is on a level that I don't even think we're touching the surface of right about now. I mean, but the tools and tips are there, but we have some serious, major, you know, beliefs about, you know, how we live our lives and what's not acceptable and what is acceptable. And just think about that on a deeper level, how those people are just gonna get really left behind, like really far, far, far behind because of that ideology that they have that they're not willing to let go of because it's not cool. You know what I mean?
Yes. And that's like what you said, the ideology that they have, because we all have the ability to create core beliefs that support us. But if
Yeah.
we're not, but if nobody tells us that we can, or nobody shows us that we can, then we grow up as these insecure adults that, you know, don't feel worthy and all this stuff. And then and unless we can come to it in our own, the way that we have, and do the hard work, you know, it's those generational patterns of trauma just continue. So yeah, it is like you said, barely scratching the surface. There's so much there, but ultimately it's always, it comes down to the person. It comes down to the individual, what's going on within them, because every single one of us has that choice and that power and that life within us. Yeah. So it's oh, I could talk about that for days.
I know. Me and you both. But for the sake of time, the only other aspect I think I had was Jupiter in Aquarius that we're having for this entire year, which kind of is, anything Jupiter touches astrologically, it expands that energy, right? Whether it's good, the goods or the bad, it's expanding it, right? So the possibility of like a fear of you know, like germs, you know, getting sick, so like hysteria, getting COVID, you know, that
phobia.
Germaphobe, that's what that's the word I was looking for. These are the people who kind of exaggerate things, blow things out of proportion. You know, they have a hard time, you know, the pathological liars, you know, it's just some of the things that come with this energy. The hypochondriac, you know, really just over exaggerate things. I'm not laughing. I remember when COVID first came about, I was teaching a class actually, and one of the students had said something. This was like before it got really, really big. And one of the students in the class was like really freaking out. And I didn't really know what was going on. Like I genuinely thought he was joking at first. Cause you know, the kids they were all bumping around, playing, ba, 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 ba. And he was like, no, but he wasn't from this country. He was of Asian descent, if you will. I don't know exactly. Where I guess this had been going on well before I had hit here. And he had family, so he knew and felt this on a very deeper level in that moment. But we didn't know,
right?
You know, as this was happening, it was we really genuinely thought that he was just joking around. So before it grew really, really, you know, out of control, you know, he was just very calmly saying, no, I'm just going to sit back here. He had already had his mask on and he wanted to sit in the back of the class and express. And the kids were just, you know, they kept poking at him and teasing him because of, you know, he said why he didn't want to. And it just, when I thought of this energy, I thought of that as hysteria. And some of the things, I've had a few other experiences as well, but just to give some real life examples and put context to how these things can look, right. It's always quite fascinating to me, you know.
What I hear like about the energy is like a lot of fear around it. And I think, you know, like I think there's only room for one energy, and it can be either a fear energy or a love energy. So I think like it's so important for us to remember that it's either love or it's fear. And if there's a lot of fear there, you could ground yourself, come back into alignment, take some deep breaths, and then look at the situation from a space of love and like and see what perspective that gives you, and then take your next step from there, because it's so easy to attach ourselves to fear, you know. It's like fear sometimes feels safer than trusting, you know, because at
Yeah.
least you're like, okay, I'm attached to this fear, and I'm gonna like do all these things to keep myself safe. But if we can go into it from a space of love instead and trust, you know,
Yeah.
it changes the perspective entirely, and it opens new doors, new opportunities, new paths to take. So I think that's an important message for today too, is that in the planets there's a lot of fear. So it's more important, so important for us now to keep that space of love and to make those choices from that space instead of the fear space.
Yes, yes, powerful. Yes. Okay, and last but not least, we have Pisces and Neptune. This is another generational planet, so this is something that's kind of festering over time, but um, Pisces actually rules mental health, autism, illusions, delusions, and kind of mental asylums and things of that nature. So this is where we kind of get more into the spiritual part of it. And again, this is not my wheelhouse, but just the study of astrology, I know like a lot of people could relate autism. And I know there's some levels to autism, to this kind of spiritual concept of you know, maybe that they're rather in touch with a deeper part that just people don't, we can't, you know, we can't fathom, we can't feel that, right? Um, from a spiritual sense, the possibility of that with this Uranus energy, this is rules Aquarius. It's a very big energy. It actually rules electricity in the higher mind. Again, it's double air energy here. We got a lot going on with the mental. So even having these types of experiences, you know, that you hear things, see things, you know, this kind of rules that possibility to grow in this area. I had two examples. One is Kanye.
Oh yeah, I wanted to hear that one. You said you were talking about that.
Because he's an air sign, and I know he had, I think he was diagnosed with bipolar, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. But this actually went twofold. So I took a peek at his chart just to see where his placements were. And he had a lot of Jupiter and air. And so that's that pathological liar, that bipolar, you know, from that up really low, calm, to just up out of nowhere, over exaggerating type of stuff that he was doing, which, you know, even in that process, I don't know if anybody's been following him or has heard anything else about him. The really cool thing about Neptune is having a deeper understanding of life too, in some kind of way, you know, kind of understanding that things aren't always what they seem, right? So taking, like, going back to what I was saying in the beginning, there could be a possibility where we can understand mental health in this kind of way very differently. For some things, not everything, you know, but that possibility is there. I think when I think of this, I think that this is a very thin line between people who with high autism, or very intelligent people, right? The two are almost damn near pretty damn close, you know. But there's a spiritual component to me. So I really think of Kanye. I know people think I'm crazy. I've been saying this about poor Kanye for a real. I'm probably the only person. I'm probably the only person defending him. But
I like Kanye.
I do too, to be honest. um, but he's very, very intelligent. He has that placement in his chart where he's super, super smart, but maybe he doesn't have enough earth in there to help ground him. And then he even mentioned and talk about the disparities about mental health in the home, and talking about them and making those things normal, like he was talking about. And just to expand on that, the importance of how we kind of do that everywhere in our life, you know, not just in the home or within ourselves, but as a unity, right? Because Aquarius also rules the people, you know, so the people are going to unite in some kind of way where we support each other on all topics. We're not going to be so judgmental. I don't want to speak for everybody or the entire world, but I think sometimes we can be a little bit harsh on what we think mental health is, or just have some very unrealistic ideas of what mental health is. So again, just learning mental health in a very different, open-minded kind of way, and having those structures put in for everywhere we go, not just for ourselves, but as an entirety, as a people, just practicing better mental health, right? And the only other one person was Tamar Braxton. I don't know if anybody even really knows who she is, but she had a mental health outbreak, and hers was pretty deep. Now, that was some serious childhood issues there that came out. I think everybody learned about her. And even if you watch the show, she's kind of considered the problem child in her family. And it's just very interesting to be able to look at somebody's chart to see these things and just make those kind of correlations. But I think this was more really on the lines of what you do and what you talk about on a pretty consistent basis here when I thought about Tamar, which is why I brought her up. So most people may or may not know her. She has her own show with her sister, Toni Braxton, who is a singer. Their whole family is actually very talented. But she always kind of talks about how she got left out. This is very Neptune. Nobody really cared about her, so she felt like she had to act out to get attention, very attention seeking. And she hit rock bottom, on live TV, and it was just really sad. She got rushed to the hospital. And she was in the process of change too, so I think a lot of that onset came from that, like sometimes it just,
all this shit coming up.
and she was doing a good job. I was so proud of her. You can tell she was really trying to hone in that very up and down, or just, allowing the things that outside internal, the external information that she was receiving and was surrounding herself with, to just kind of be like, you know what, people are who they are. They have the right to make their comments. I have to learn how to control me. It was so powerful. It was so powerful to see that kind of thing play out on TV, because I just think of you when I was doing this. I was like, this is what Leah's talking about. I was like, we totally have to do a live together.
I'm so glad we did, because I have so much to say about that. So much to say.
And a good job you do, to be honest.
So so first I want to say that when I was in therapy, I had the last therapist that I worked with for years, and she was wonderful, and I would still be seeing her if she didn't move away. But she told me in one of our sessions that if she wasn't an advocate for inner child healing work, that she would have diagnosed me with bipolar.
No way.
Yeah. And that's what, if she wasn't so big on doing inner child healing work, if I would have gone to, and I did go to other people, and I was diagnosed with like deep depression, anxiety, all those different diagnoses. And then I found her, and she really was amazing. And it's because of the fact that she looked at the inner child, healing the inner child. And so so that's a big piece of what I do. Like, it's huge, because in our subconscious mind is where our belief system, our core belief system, is operating at all times. So whether we're aware of it or not, our core belief system is operating in that subconscious mind. So everything that we're creating, all the interactions that we're having, the people that we interact with, they are a result of our core beliefs. They're a result of our core beliefs. And our core beliefs are constructed in our childhood. They're constructed in childhood. So if our childhood, if we received the messages that the world is not safe, that something's wrong with us, that we're, all these horrible things that happen, the messages that we get from trauma, that's how we're operating in our core belief system. And so even this woman you're talking about, that she's doing so well, she's getting all this help, but if her core belief system is still stuck with the way it was constructed in childhood, that's why there's massive breakdown, because she's wanting so bad to heal,
Yeah.
but her core belief system that's operating in that subconscious mind contradicts it. It contradicts it. So it's so important to go to the root and to reconstruct that core belief system. But in order to do that, we have to be able to see what it is currently. And that requires us to look at our traumas. And that's, I get so like worked up about it in a good way, because I really think that that's where we're coming to in the stage of like human evolution, is that we really need to look at the childhood traumas and what's happening in those first 7 years of our lives. Like, it's so important. And then being able to heal that and restructure our core belief system. Like, you and I had that conversation, like, where for me personally, coming into this work that I'm doing, like, I've had to do so much work, because the responses that I get from people, like all the love that comes into me, I'm even getting emotional now. Like, it's almost like at times it's like, it's too much, like, I don't deserve so much goodness. And I know that I do, and I'm working through that. But even, I'm giving an example of like, of doing this work that I love so much, the core beliefs that come up from my childhood, that no, you don't deserve that much goodness. You only deserve just enough. And so I'm having to restructure those. Every time that feeling comes up, I'm like, no, those were lies. And the truth is, like, you can accept all this goodness, and it gives you the capability to give out more goodness. And so it's, it's constantly like watching for those triggers that come up and all those negative core beliefs that are still there. And the thing is, they're so deeply rooted. That it takes a long time. It takes a long time to get them out and to restructure them. So, but I think that's the time that we're in. That's what's going on, like, and I'm very careful when I talk about mental health, because it's a touchy subject for many people, especially those who deal with mental health. But I have to be true to myself and say that my belief is that all mental health stems from those fucked up core belief systems that we carry from childhood, and and which are a result of those childhood traumas. So that's my standpoint on it. And I do believe, that there is a place for medication. There is a place for these diagnoses, and especially with autism and things like that. I also wanted to say that, each soul comes here to learn a specific lesson. So if we come in with a disorder, or we're born with something like that, it's part of our soul's journey. So that's separate. What I'm talking about is the mental health that we deal with as adults. We were healthy, strong kids, but now what the heck? We're depressed all the time. We're anxious. Like, what's that all about? And it's all about childhood trauma. So I'm so grateful that you're on this page with me, and that you allow me to speak like this, because I'm finding that it's not so rare anymore. There's a lot of people that are wanting to heal and that are understanding that this is how to do it, but there's a lot of different opinions. So I'm grateful to you, Keisha. I love this conversation.
Me too. I'm so excited that you came, that you agreed to do it. I knew it was going to be great. I knew you was going to kill it. I have a lot of things about some of these. I know I keep going to this political conversation, but the governmental structures, I think, have to change too. And so just very quickly, on a very overall grand scale, as we change, these structures have to change too, because even when we go out, we depend on these people for services, and it is a trigger. It's a trigger with the lack of change and not being so open to that. It doesn't help. And I still think that we're in a great position to change that on a universal level, to be quite frank. I am super excited about the age of Aquarius, and just the relationships that it's brought this time around.
This one.
Like you said, I've learned that a lot of people do actually want to do better, but the lack of people there to help, or we've been in a position now where, because we have social media, we're connected in this very beautiful, beautiful way that we have it now. We have it in front of us. We have the ability. I mean, literally, I can just go on your page and get a lesson. If I'm not feeling well, I can go right to your page and be like, you know what? And not to say that it hasn't always been there. I want to make that very clear, because I feel like I keep saying that and people might mistake me for saying like this is some new. It's not new. There's nothing new under the sun. You know what I mean? Everything that we need is already here. But again, going back to those structures that kind of kept us really in the dark, have been bursted open. They've had their rock bottom, and it's just like you said, it's still allowing for us to change together this time. We're all on the same playing field, and it's been very interesting to watch. Change is not easy. We have a long way to go. Yeah, I'm going to close out with, I won't keep you guys much longer. By the way, thank you everybody for who showed up. I appreciate your time. Something you had said about working with children and being able to provide them with, safe spaces and different ideologies. Super well said point. With that being said, and I'll be posting just a minute here shortly, that I got my sister who's starting her own daycare. I think I've been talking about it here and there. If you've been following me for a really long time, you know. We started this, I think, when the pandemic started, and it's been a struggle, but she's here. I think she's still in here. She made some comments. Again, this is her wheelhouse. She loves doing this, but she's opened her doors to being able to work with everybody. She's working on curriculums. She's working on a way to be able to have online daycare for people who need that service. I can't wait. We will be doing a live on Saturday where she's going to tell you all about it. You definitely don't want to miss it. I hope you guys will join me for that. But she's really going to dig in and talk about it. And I think you too can actually, I'll send you like a request to follow her.
Cool. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So anyways, I don't have anything else. This was so awesome. Thank you so much, Leah.
Yes, Keisha, thank you. And thank you to the Way of Lyfe community for allowing me to speak today. Yeah, I think we've always gotten along really well since the beginning. So I was so happy to finally do this live. It's awesome. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. If there's nothing else, I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Ooh, I have one question.
Yes.
So the new moon is coming up, right? And
the 11th.
Yes, the 11th. And it's supposed to be really powerful because there's 6 planets in alignment. But if we're in Mercury in retrograde, we're not supposed to start anything new. But how do we take advantage of the power of this new moon in Mercury in retrograde? That was my only question.
You're gonna love this. This is why we're connecting right now, because everything that you're asking me, you're already teaching, right? You've said all the key skills, the core skills that we need to have, right? So we already know that change is super hard, right? And this is a big change. This is not a little change, and we can't I don't care how big it is, you can't do it all in one sitting. So what retrogrades really are going to allow us to do at this time in this entire year and for the next 20 years is allow us to take this really big change and sit down and say, okay, am I doing everything right? Go back and write stuff down. Make sure you're on the alignment. Make sure you're finding out who you are. Make sure you're working through your healing. Making sure that you're dealing with these issues. Making sure you're connecting with the right people. Making sure that you can see all the positivity you want to see on your social media, people. I can't stress this enough. This
Love
New
it.
moon is going to be beautiful for this.
Mhm.
And even though technically we're not really moving forward, you're not necessarily starting anything new. That change is coming regardless, right? Just making sure that you have your tools put in place so that when we do start really moving fast, you already
Ready.
know.
Go.
you tap into that earth energy and tap into that higher side of Capricorn and use your goals, use your daily planning. What kind of health are you doing? Are you getting enough sleep? Check in with you. This is what this is
Beautiful.
really all about. And like I said, if I couldn't have said that better, but literally Leah has been talking about this entire time. And, and if you don't know who you are and you're trying to figure that out, come get a reading. I don't do just career and business. That is just what I absolutely positively love to do. As you can see, I've been on here doing lives on every damn topic just to prove that astrology really is a holistic study. And even though I don't specialize in these areas, I can see this. And the reason that it's so important to me on this journey is whether you're looking for a career or starting your new business, you really want to know what's in your way. What blockages do you have? Why are you struggling? Why are you fearful? And I can see all of that in your chart. So spread the word. Leah and I are here to save the day, one day at a time.